And once again, so blessed to be a part of your day here on the right side. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. How about President Trump? Nancy Pelosi, not so fast, my friend. You're not the boss of me. The government shut down, and you're not going anywhere. With analysis and insight from the belly of the beast, the swamp, joining us exclusively from Washington, D.C., from Strategies 360, our great friend Philip Hardy. Good morning, sir.
Mahalo, Kevin.
Mahalo. Aloha. Buenos dias. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
So what is the reaction? We get the reaction here in the Treasure Valley, but what is the reaction at ground zero there for the government shutdown?
Well, it really depends on what side you're on, Kevin. If you're a Republican or you lean conservative or you're just someone who likes the president, you're giving high fives to the nearest person you can find for the president dunking on the speaker yesterday with her canceled trip to the Middle East. Literally, a bus was full of Congress people on their way to join Air Force Base Andrews and literally stopped in the street, turned around, and piled their luggage back up in the hallways of Congress. So either you think it was a brilliant riposte to the speaker either canceling or trying to reschedule the State of the Union address, or, boy, just crazy schoolyard politics.
Boy, the president certainly is unorthodox, and just when you think the libs have him in a corner, Phil, he comes back and pulls this one. I like you, I think it's great. But what about the impact of the shutdown there and the idea? What was the reaction initially where Nancy Pelosi was going to disinvite the president to her house? Well,
you know, we've got to mention one thing from the outside. This is a partial government shutdown. Only 20% of the government is not open at this point. And I saw a Rasmussen poll yesterday and the day before that said more than half of Americans have had absolutely no impact. This partial shutdown has had no impact at all in their lives, or know anybody who has had it impact their lives. Only about 10% of Americans have had some impact to this partial shutdown in their lives. You know, life is going on as normal here. People are conducting business. What's really more of keeping the government from doing anything is the fact that Congress is still not assigned all of its new members committees. So therefore, there aren't any hearings. Nothing's really happening on Capitol Hill because Nancy, hasn't really figured out what to do with all her new Congress people.
Well, then you've got Alexandria Cortez, who's giving lessons to the folks to her party on Twitter. However, what about the new Congress? We had our own Congressman Fulcher. We'll hear from that in a minute. He gave his first floor speech on the floor of the House yesterday. What are they doing?
Well, that's a really good question. In particular, Congressman Fulcher is himself still waiting to learn what committees he will serve on. And he may not know for another week, may not know for another 2 weeks completely. So it is a different time in Washington because the House has switched hands party. There's a lot of reapportionment. It's an unusual thing. So things are taking longer to move. There's no doubt about it. But then you also have, this fight going on between what the president wants and what Nancy is willing to give him. And we're arguing over, basically a $5 or $4 amount of money, not even 40 cents in the total budget, a $5 billion appropriation for border security. So I don't know where this ends, Kevin, because it's already the longest partial shutdown or shutdown of any kind in our nation's history. But I look out the window and people are going to work and things are happening. The country's still moving.
Right. But contrary to what we hear in every other media outlet but this one, and our friends that are national talk show hosts, we have people saying the government workers are suffering. We have a bar in Boise giving them away free beer. Sure, we don't want to be insensitive, but the media's portrayal of this is, well, how would you describe it?
Kevin, let me point out something to you and your listeners right now. The average salary of a federal worker in Washington, D.C. is $113,000 a year. if those people need free beer, they need more lessons in how to manage their money rather than anything else. Federal workers are very highly compensated. They should be able to manage a few weeks without a paycheck.
Well, it's more than a few weeks. So how do we see this playing out?
Well, hang on a second. It may be more than a few weeks, but a lot of people don't know is that several agencies in government only pay their workers once a month. So you may have only missed your first paycheck last week or coming up this week, next week. So you really need to get these arguments, correct. So it's really a large fake news story to a certain extent that there's real damage happening to our economy because 20% or less than 20% of federal workers are not on the job. It looks to me like the government's functioning just fine.
Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us from Strategies 360 in Washington, D.C. So we've talked a little bit about that, the shutdown. What about the comments of Rudy Giuliani about their no collusion, back and forth? What do you make of that?
Well, obviously the big news, I can't say news, story that broke overnight from BuzzFeed News is that the president told his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress. Now, of course, all of these allegations are based on anonymous sources, so we don't know if the story is true or not.
Right. It hasn't been verified by a reputable news organization. It's from BuzzFeed.
What has been ever, confirmed? Honestly, Kevin.
Sure.
I mean, we've been working on anonymous sources and leakers for 2 straight years. Someone I know I already spoke with this morning who is a prosecutor said if Mueller knew about these supposed crimes, which would have occurred in September, and has done nothing about it since then, that would be something else. So if he's sitting by letting Trump appoint a Supreme Court justice and more judges and move on with these sorts of things when he knows that this is in his back pocket, what's he doing? So either Mueller is incompetent or he has nothing, or because if he does have something, he should have come forward with it by now.
Indeed. So Phil Hardy joining us. Obviously, I'm sure you missed the Treasure Valley.
Well, I just heard the weather report. It's going to be 48 degrees there today. It's been snowing here quite steadily lately, and it's supposed to get down to about 10 degrees. So, people think that Idaho is colder than back east. I'm sure you can periodically remind people that's not always the case. I
would agree with you. But always good to have you on. Anything else you'd like to share with us? We sure appreciate you starting our day on the right side.
Well, Kevin, honestly, I don't see where this shutdown ends, to be honest with you. I'm wondering how much longer it can go on, but it's already gone on longer than anyone expected. There has to come a moment where both sides have to figure out a way out. And, this is where I do blame Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. I think that they were ready for the president to declare the national state of emergency as the way out so that everyone could declare victory. But it hasn't happened. So where is the exit? I don't know. All I know is that it may be a little bit slower to get through lines when you're flying. That's all I can tell people. Get to the airport a little earlier.
Fair enough. Phil Hardy, I got to have what's in your coffee. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you when you get back. Safe travels, and anything else you'd like to share. It's very rare that I just shut up and let people talk. It's just very entertaining this morning.
It's always a pleasure joining you. I'm looking forward to getting back to the Valley at some point, maybe once the lines open up at TSA. But it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thank you, Phil. Take care, and we enjoy your posts on Facebook, walking around, and still hoping that you get a shave and a haircut soon, sir.
I have not done that yet. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Take care. Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us, Strategies 360, exclusively right here on KIDO Talk Radio. We'll take your phone calls on the government shutdown at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And here you have it. President Trump, as we've called him, the stone cold Steve Austin of politics, saying, Nancy Pelosi, you're going to kick me out of the State of the Union? Well, you're not going to fly to Afghanistan.
You will be seeing many things unfolding in the next few days about.
By the way, do you think the troops really want to see Nancy Pelosi?
What our next bills will be on the floor. But in case I wasn't clear, 90% of the drugs coming into the country come through the ports of entry. Let's use resources to expand the ports of entry.
There we have it. The drugs don't come in through the non-bordered secured walls. The drugs come in through the ports of entry. Here we have Nancy Pelosi defending the drug dealers, the drug cartels. She hates the president that bad that she's willing to defend the drug coyotes.
You have to this has to be evidence-based,
right?
Not notion-mongered.
Notion-mongered. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It was a big day on Capitol Hill yesterday, and we'll talk about it, where you have Nancy Pelosi getting ready to go on her plane ride that we were going to pay for again and again. All the libs, they had their lunches packed. They had their bags packed. It was going to be a field trip. And then all of a sudden, right before they get on the plane, the president cancels it. Here's what happened if you were working yesterday from your friends on KIDO Talk Radio.
I think the best thing that could happen, and everybody could calm a little bit, get in a room together, and put the American people first before their travels and solve the problem.
The president invited a small group of both Democrats and Republicans to talk about the shutdown and to talk about border security. And I got to tell you that the president continues to be committed to the security and safety of the American people. He continues to be committed.
My own personal preference would be that we move ahead with the country and the government where we agree and open up those aspects of the government, and where we disagree, continue to have that debate in a robust fashion.
The shutdown is completely unnecessary from beginning to end. Disputes over border security don't require us to shut down the government to resolve. Whether this kind of fifth grade conduct is going to contribute, it's hard to see how it's very constructive.
This senseless shutdown is inflicting great pain.
And there we have it. Just when you thought there couldn't be anybody cuter or cuddlier than Hillary Clinton, along comes Nancy. Let's go to Anti-Government Ryan with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Anti-Government Ryan.
God bless you, Kevin. God bless all your listeners. Happy Friday. Nancy just said there, the clip you just ran, 90% of the drugs come through the ports of entry. How would she have any clue possible? Most of the drugs you probably aren't even catching, so you have no idea what ratio is coming through. But that's a side point. I mean, she's just a blumbering idiot. What does she just pull these facts and figures out of her Botox little backside or what? I mean, just craziness. Kevin, Trump blocking Nancy's plane was just brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. I almost fell off the chair laughing when I heard that. What business does this woman have prancing around the world? Well, I mean, she's the leader of one of the bodies of Congress. What does she need to go to these foreign destinations for at millions of dollars?
I just like the Botox backside.
Well, I wanted to use a different word, but I wanted to keep it clean for you, Kevin. I didn't want to get the beat.
I appreciate
but
that.
You're welcome. Well, I, unlike a lot of people, can show self-control in certain situations.
Well, but back to this point, it was a brilliant move by the president.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, millions of dollars. I'm sure she has a whole arsenal of Secret Service, and I mean, chartering the airplanes. You know, it's probably a mini Air Force One or something like that. I mean, it's just craziness. And then another point, Kevin, on the whole investigation by Mueller. Kevin, I'm a certified fraud examiner. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I'm licensed by the association, the ACFE. Anyway, I used to conduct fraud investigations years ago, and one thing about investigations like this is they need to be done promptly and quickly. One thing that nobody can say about this investigation is how prompt and quick it has occurred. It's like, I mean, what are they doing? Are they just scratching under every single little twig and leaf to try to find some speck of impropriety or something. I mean, it's just preposterous. And I'm sure Mueller has a whole army of investigators, right? I mean, it's not just him sitting at his little laptop looking through paperwork or whatever. I mean, but once again, that's the difference between a government entity doing a job and a private sector entity doing its job. Private sector is always going to be better, more efficient, and more effective. But that's the difference between the government. So it's craziness, man.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Anti-Government Ryan.
Hey, God bless you, Kevin. Have a wonderful weekend, man.
You as well. Take care, sir. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. We go to Liberal Steve. Good morning, sir.
Buenos dias, Idaho. You know, anti-government Brian. Is it Brian or Ryan?
Ryan.
Oh, Ryan, like Paul Ryan, who traveled to Israel. Well, what did the House Speaker, how could he travel to Israel? Like Nancy Pelosi wanted to travel to Afghanistan. Come on.
Was that in the middle of a government shutdown?
And why did she want to travel?
Was that in the middle of a government shutdown?
Why did she want to
Was that in the middle of a government shutdown?
I can't remember.
No, it wasn't.
And anti-government Ryan, I don't want to call him Brian, but it's like Phil Hardy is so cold-hearted too, by the way. And anti-government Brian, your brain is like a BB in a box.
Now, there you go, personally attacking people again. What is with you?
Well, he said, where did she come up with this information on the drugs coming the way they come?
Yeah.
By a person.
Was she there with the drug-sniffing dog or what? How does she know? And why is it she's doing something to stop it? She's been in Congress for years.
Can I talk? I'm telling you. It was in major newspapers across the U.S.
Ooh.
The guy that testified against the big cartel drug dealer that we have said he was a drug major guy. He says 99% of the drugs are coming right through the places where everybody travels. So that's where she got it. And so, yeah. Now what are you going to say? Go ahead. I answered it. What are you going to say?
I don't know. I don't know what to say after that.
You know this.
You were quoting a major newspaper. How profound.
And why don't they?
The newspapers never distort the truth.
Yeah, use your satire and how profound and act smart and cool.
I'm not. I'm just responding. I go, ooh, what's in the newspaper must be true. Ooh.
You want a good joke for your listeners? Liberal Steve can snap them out left and right. Let's say we build the wall out of Hillary's emails, because it seems like nobody can get over those.
Ooh, that's a good
There
one.
you go, Kevin. A great joke for you. And then your buddy Phil Hardy that used to live by me when I lived up in that stinking town of Boise, Idaho. Oh, God. And then he's on there saying, they can't go a month without their pay. You know, and they're showing federal prison workers.
Now, I will say this. I am not as hardcore as Phil on that, because there's a big difference. And by the way, $120,000 in D.C. isn't a lot, considering a one-bedroom apartment goes for like $2,000 there, number one. But there's a big difference between one of these bougie political types and a TSA worker in Boise. I sit there, people that work for the Department of Homeland Security, you don't make a lot of money. You're on the front lines. You're doing the people's work. They should be paid. They should be paid, but shame on both sides on that one.
Exactly, and I'm surprised you didn't hold his feet to the fire. I mean, he reminds me.
I never hold anybody's feet to the fire.
You hold mine to the fire 24/7, and he runs around with his nose so brown. First it was Labrador, and then it was otter, and now who's he looking for that he can put his nose where?
My goodness.
I've lost all respect for Phil Hardy, but he should get back in the music industry.
Fair enough, Liberal Steve.
Yeah, well, everybody out there, you stay fired up. I'm just so upset with this.
Fair enough, Liberal Steve.
If he told Cohen,
one more time, Liberal Steve. Fair enough means time to go.
Cohen, he's on the
107.5 FM, 580 AM. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And back to the phones. Let's go to Rick in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Kevin. I want to talk about a couple of things, but I do think it was a brilliant move on Donald Trump's part to block that trip, because that saved millions of dollars of government money during a government shutdown, and it exposed the hypocrisy of the left in what they were planning to do. The other thing is, I just want to mention that I admire pro-life for his courage to stand for biblical morality that made this country great. But I do have a question. I mean, why is Marilyn Monroe being glorified as the epitome of love? Why did she die so young? And why shouldn't we pick someone in Idaho like Donna Velvick, not her married name, but someone who has done so much for hundreds of kids that had been pushed out of society? So just another question to consider.
We appreciate it, brother. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
631 KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Thank you, Dave Ramsey. Don't forget, after Dave, it's our friend Sean Hannity on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. What are we talking about today? Well, Gillette goes after the men. The government shut down. Nancy Pelosi gets her frequent flyer miles pulled. And, of course, the very latest, we go live to Washington, D.C. Rachel Sutherland joins us from Fox News Radio, exclusively here in the Treasure Valley on KIDO Talk Radio. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
So here we have it, collusion, delusion. I don't know where, I can't think of another thing that rhymes with that. The remarks of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani continue to resonate. What do they mean?
Well, it's really bizarre, Kevin, because Rudy Giuliani on CNN, I'm sure you saw Chris Cuomo's face when he said that he never said that there was no collusion within the campaign. Now, he has walked back some of those statements and saying that that essentially he works for the president, that he can only speak for the president, but that he knows of no collusion outside of the president. So he's really sending these mixed messages that Rudy Giuliani is kind of known for. I mean, he does this all the time. Every time he gets out on the stage there, it just seems like he confuses people. I don't know if this is a strategy. It appears to be, or just the way he is.
Right, and obviously people are reacting to Chris Cuomo's interview with Rudy Giuliani again and again. I'm wondering if the former mayor will continue to speak out.
Well, I think he may lay low for a while. We'll see if he has anything to say today. And there's this one theory, Kevin, that perhaps Giuliani is trying to get out ahead of a potential Mueller report that might implicate somebody within the campaign, maybe not the president himself, but maybe some outliers or something like that. That's the only thing I could think of, because he was so adamant over and over again that there's been no collusion at all anywhere. And the president himself also adamant in that. So people have been suggesting that perhaps a report is coming sooner rather than later. I don't know if that's just wishful thinking.
Rachel Sutherland joining us, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. And then we have this unconfirmed story from BuzzFeed that people are buzzing about. And then you've got former Attorney General Eric Holder already saying if this story is true, although it hasn't been verified by Fox and other legitimate news operations, and no disrespect to BuzzFeed, but journalistically that's what people do, that the president should be impeached.
Oh, yeah, there's already calls for that. You mentioned Eric Holder, Adam Schiff, Congressman Ted Lieu, a bunch of people already calling for that. And look, you're right. I mean, BuzzFeed, weren't they the ones, though, that broke the dossier at one point or another? I wouldn't say that I would trust them completely, but they're kind of a tip. It's a tip, but you're right. No other news organizations have confirmed that I am aware of that this story that President Trump allegedly directed his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about plans for a Trump Tower. That was apparently those plans were under observation. People were looking at those during the 2016 campaign. And what Michael Cohen is apparently saying is that the president told him to lie to Congress. Now, Cohen did plead guilty to one count of lying to Congress in November. So he did plead guilty to that. Others are saying this is not true. Rudy Giuliani, again, saying if you believe Cohen, I can get you a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge. So he is still speaking out, just not on the TV this morning.
Our great friend, Rachel Sutherland, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Terry in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you for your patience.
This is your biggest fan, Terry.
My man, how are you, Terry? Good to talk to you.
Your prayers must work because I've come back clean on 2 checkups now.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is, and I just thank God for the prayers and the wonderful team I had. And I did a lot of research to get a great team. These people at St. Al's were a great team. Shauna Williams, she was written up in Time Magazine, U.S. News World Report, and some others. Plus AMA and New England Journal of Medicine is the best one of the best colon rectal surgeons in the United States. And she picked the team, Schulteis and Dr. Lindsay Sales. But what I called about was if we can get your audience and a lot of people to call and get the representatives to get them the DOJ and the FBI to turn over those papers to Jim Jordan and Trey Gowdy, I think it'll derail Mueller, expose that corruption. But they've been fighting for that so many months. They've got to do it. If your audience will call back to D.C., the representatives here, plus there, to get them to release the DOJ and don't black it out, and the FBI. It should show the corruption on the Democrats that are real criminal acts, and I think that will get this thing derailed. And the other thing that I'm sorry that liberal Steve shovels dirt on you. You're a great man and a true Christian with real feelings, and I'm just sorry to hear him do that to you. But he's wrong. I got a Mexican friend I worked with for many, many years, and he digressed and went into Border Patrol, and his brother's on the other side, and it's 90% isn't coming through the ports, and that's more direction by misdirection. They say they're coming out through some buildings and tunnels and people over there and dropping it with airplanes and catapulted it over the fence and stuff like that. They got prearranged stuff, so that's why they don't even want to do it. I could tell you the name of the guy, but I don't want to expose it. But we have got to stand up to these Democrats, and Republicans have got to go a hefty spine if they got to get fusion done on it by an orthopedic surgeon to fight like these Democrats do. You got to give them kudos for doing that, even though the intellect on it is totally absurd to the point I don't know how anybody that has better than a fourth grade education could believe some of this stuff. But you're wonderful keeping us informed, and the different people that you're getting opinions on for us to enlighten us is spectacular.
Well, we love you, Terry. My mom has just said hi, and you're in our prayers. God bless.
Tell her hi, too, and tell her thanks for the prayers and everything. And I really do appreciate that. But we got to keep a great country. Are you going to the Catholic thing
for the men?
Yeah.
Probably not, but I'm working on it. I'm working on getting there.
I don't know how you can get away with the time constraints that you have. But thank you, and I just hope the audience picks up what I said about getting the DOJ and not redacted and the FBI to get those papers to Jim Jordan and Trey Gowdy to really expose what's going on. I think it would derail this pathetic investigation, and your comments are very well taken by your audience, and you're a very good man. And I'm just sorry that Steve does what he does to you on the air, and you have God-given patience to Job to tolerate it, because most people would block him.
Oh, I think he means well in his own way. Terry, we're going to run, but God bless, my friend.
You too, and you take care of yourself.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Always a pleasure to hear from our friend Terry, doing well in his battle against cancer. God bless him. And what was it, about a year ago, we had Terry at the Kevin Miller birthday party. It was such an honor to see him and have so many people there at Dave & Buster's. Big news yesterday coming out of the House of Representatives. Our very own Congressman Russ Fulcher had the chance to give his first full speech on the House floor. Here's a little taste of it.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm often asked why I came to Congress, and I've asked myself that very same question. Certainly not for the money, and it's not for the notoriety or the scrutiny that comes with that. Ultimately, for me, it comes down to the honorable purpose of supporting the divinely inspired principles behind our nation's founding. Being a voice for those unavailable or unable to speak. There's none more vulnerable or unable to speak than the unborn. And there's no more noble cause than protecting or promoting life. Madam Speaker, I stand today during this week honoring the sanctity of life to ask every member of this body to use any and all influence to return to our nation's legal environment that promotes life and to return to a cultural environment that promotes life as well. Our unborn would ask the same if they could. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
There we have it from Congressman Fulcher yesterday, getting ready for the March for Life, giving a pro-life message on the floor of the House. You know, if you've met Russ Fulcher, if you've talked to the congressman, when you hear him speak, it's like talking to your neighbor or listening to your neighbor, right? So big ups to Congressman Fulcher for standing up for the unborn. God bless. Coming up next at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we take on Gillette. Is this really the best a man can give? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Well, the nation is a-buzzing. Millennials are buzzing. But what about the older generation? We believe the new ad from Gillette, the best a man can be. Well, I could describe it, but let's listen to it right now on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Toxic masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it? We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long.
You know, it's so bad. First, it was entertainment. It's so bad now, the vilification of good men, that even the commercials aren't safe. You know, it started with people making fun of men on comedy sitcoms. The men, the white men, they're the dummies, they're this, they're that. Now they're the predators. And we were just looking at Chris Jansen, whatever his name was. You remember that old show on NBC, To Catch a Predator? Well, he just got busted because he couldn't pay his rent. But we've turned society into a giant catch a predator. Well, what about all the liberals? What about all the Hollywood elite that let Harvey Weinstein, Les Moonves, Kevin Spacey, and all the libs run wild and be predators, right? Where's Gillette on those folks? Where's Gillette on this? Do we really want to see this bullying? It's men that bully. Wasn't it that we're taught as men and people to stand up to bullies? Back to Gillette.
We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
What did he just say? Who's the daddy? Now we're going to say that who's your daddy is bad? Is there anything that we can say anymore?
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool, not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
It's not how we treat each other, okay? Okay.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
No, there we have it. So we're standing up to bullies. I think we can do that without the lecture from Gillette. And it wouldn't be nice if Gillette, just like the folks at ESPN, would just sing the song. You know, if you're a clown, make me laugh. As Laura Ingraham says, shut up and play. Just play Born to Run, boss. Just entertain us. Look, Gillette, I understand that there are a lot of people that are making inroads into Gillette. Gillette Stadium, Gillette this, Gillette that. But to sit there and start turning commercials into social commentary. Well, where were the folks at Gillette with Harvey Weinstein? By the way, this hits close to home. As someone who, I believe Robert Kraft is involved in Gillette. He owns the New England Patriots. His best buddy, Les Moonves of CBS, that just got thrown out of CBS. Lost $120 million. Why? Sexual harassment. Being a predator. Now, it comes down to not vilifying one gender. It comes down to holding everybody accountable. You can't sit there and be provocative and have people respond, and then all of a sudden the response person is the bad person. You know, I could go down a rabbit hole with this. You know what it is? The golden rule. That's what you live by. Believe me, the older I get, the more flawed we all are, at least when I look in the mirror. I yearn for that 20-year-old that knew everything and that was so full of himself. That's what's going to change. Prayer, thanking God, humility, empathy, not silly, goofy commercials. 107.5 FM, 580 AM, Kevin Miller in the morning.